Oklahoma City. And it wasn't right on the beach, so we would, oh, well, it's time, I guess, to start. Never mind.
Good morning, and we're going to go ahead and call the first public hearing to order. And the first thing we'll do is read a general statement, and I can go ahead and read that. The purpose of this public hearing is to provide an opportunity for citizens to express their option regarding the 2020 millage rate. Tentatively, the 2021 original budget reflects an M&O, maintenance and operations, and bond millage of 18.75 and 0.00 respectively. Bond principal and interest is paid through eSplost, which is educational special purpose local option sales tax. This public hearing is one of 3 hearings required by Georgia law before the Paulding County Board of Education may finalize a millage rate and adopts fiscal year 2021 budget. The details of this meeting, let me read these real quick. In the guidelines, while it may feel awkward to have your back to the audience, your presentation is being made to the board members for their consideration. Only one person will be allowed to speak at any given time. Members of the public, when speaking, are requested to sign in with their name, address, and contact information, and that sign-up sheet is right over here with Ms. Taylor. Members of the public are requested to speak directly into the microphone due to the fact that these proceedings are being recorded, which is right here to my right, to your left. At the discretion of the board chair, statements from the public may be limited in order to allow everyone an opportunity to express an opinion. Speakers will be given 5 minutes to express their opinions, and board members may or may not respond. And now I'll turn it over to Dr. Otot for the presentation from the staff.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to invite our Chief Financial Officer, Mr. Steve Barnett, forward, and he's going to provide our community and our board information regarding the 2020 millage rate.
Good morning, everyone. So take a look at our timeline here this morning. Of course, this is the process involved in adopting our FY21 budget, and we'll zoom in a little bit to the section that's 2020 millage rate. Back on June 29th, the board issued a press release, and also we've had advertised 2 public hearing notices for our first and second hearings, and they ran July 2nd through July 8th. And of course, today, July 14th, we will hold those first two public hearings this morning at 8 a.m. and then this evening at 6 p.m. And just looking at highlights, as Mr. Fuller indicated, we are currently sitting at 18.750 in the current iteration of the budget, our tentative FY21 budget. Of course, that may be amended at any time, either through the tentative budget or even through the original budget. The bond millage rate of 0.00 will be maintained in the FY21 budget, with bond principal and interest again being paid through eSplost. We did calculate that a bond millage rate of approximately 1.682 would be required to meet FY21 debt service levels. All information presented, of course, is based on the most current digest we have available to us. The net M&O digest is projected to increase $348 million. That's 7.8%, up to $4.8 billion. Would note that last year's increase was 9.5%, again, compared to 7.8% this year, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. Changes in assessed property values, or reassessments, increased 2020 property taxes by an average of 7.4%, and that's based on 18.750 millage rate. Other changes to the digest, which are typically new or improved properties, increased the 2020 digest by 0.4%. Net taxes levied will increase by, again, 7.8%. I did want to mention a couple things related to COVID-19. Of course, the assessed values that are in the digest for 2020 are as of January 1st, so the impact of COVID-19 had not occurred yet, and so at this point, it kind of remains to be seen what the impact will be on next year's digest, but there was no impact for 2020. There were 2 resolutions that were passed that we partnered with the county on that I wanted to mention. The first is a waiver of penalties and interest on past due taxes, and also an extended deadline for the homestead exemption application. And so the full text of those resolutions are on our website under business services. You can go to the FY21 budget and you will be able to see the full text of those resolutions. But we certainly wanted to partner with the county to help support our taxpayers during extraordinary times. So there are two primary millage rate types. The first is maintenance and operations. The second is bond. And again, as I mentioned earlier, the bond millage rate is currently at 0. Back in FY 2011, the district eliminated our bond millage rate. At the time, it was 2.963. And so at that point, debt service shifted from a property tax to a consumption tax. So effectively shifting the tax burden from property owners to the purchasers of certain goods and services in Paulding County, whether you're a resident or not. So again, we calculate 1.682 would be required to meet our debt service this year. And the example you see there on the right is just a mock-up of what it would look like if there was a bond millage rate on the bill this year. And so the example you're looking at is $212,000 home value, which is the average value, home value in Paulding County this year. And so the tax bill would actually increase $139. Just a few words on the property taxpayer's Bill of Rights. This is what governs this entire process. And so essentially, among other things, the Taxpayer Bill of Rights creates sort of a framework to prevent an indirect tax increase. So again, taxes increase primarily through two reasons. One, I just mentioned a few minutes ago, it's increases due to new or improved property values. But the second is increases due to inflation or value. And so part of our responsibility is to calculate a rollback rate and then also to follow the guidelines that are outlined there on the screen, which, let me get this to click along there, which Mr. Fuller has already mentioned. The requirements include notifying the public of a tax increase, holding the 3 hearings, and then also, of course, issuing a press release, which we've done all of those things. Speaking of the press release, here's an excerpt from our press release, and I'll just mention a couple things there in the bold text. The Board of Tax Assessors, of course, which is a separate entity from the school district, is required by Georgia law to redetermine the value of property and increase the assessment. That process is called reassessment when, of course, it's warranted. And then, of course, to the bottom left there, that rollback rate, again, has to be computed. That's going to produce the same total revenue on the current New Year's tax digest that last year's millage rate would have produced had no reassessment occurred. So essentially, it just removes the impact of any reassessment. The example we have there on the screen, just in the middle there, you'll see the 2020 increase section. So there you see a fair market value of $212,000. Again, that's the average home value in Paulding County right now. If you follow that column down, you'll see at 18.750, you see an increase annually of $106 or $9 a month. The rollback rate, the column just to the right, again, you see that $212,000, and you follow the column down, the calculated rollback rate of 17.468 would produce no annual change, of course, no monthly change as well. Just a few slides on our millage rate history and some comparable districts. Here is the advertisement that was placed in the local paper. That it reflects our tax digest and a 5-year history of levy. Really, the only thing I wanted to highlight here is along the bottom there, you see the percentage increase in net taxes. Along the bottom there, you see 9.7%, 5.4, 9.5, 8.8, 8.7, and then in 2020, the 7.8. So the thing I wanted to highlight there is, with the exception of 2016, which was an anomaly year, obviously this is actually going to be the greatest decrease in the increase in property taxes since the Great Recession. So almost a % decline in 1 year. And of course, we kind of expect to see that at some point. We do expect the digest to normalize, and I think we're hopefully starting to see that. Just a few slides on comparables. This is the non-residential digest percentage, and it's comparing Paulding County School District to the 35 large districts in Georgia. The darker column there in the center is the average for those 35 large school districts, and that number is 38.9%. So right at 39% of the digest of those large school districts is made up of non-residential components, primarily commercial and industrial. Paulding County is all the way over to the left. It's the darkest column there at 18%. So that's the $2 billion problem we talk about every year. In fact, there's a slide on that in the appendix if anyone wants to see more information on that. So here's a look at millage rate, a comparison again against the 35 large districts. The darker column there over to the right just a little bit shows an average of 18.964. And so a common misperception is that because we do have this gap in our digest, that we compensate for that by higher millage rate, which the district does not do, because we're actually over to the left of that average. That's, again, the darkest column, and again, we're at 18.750. So we're actually lower than the average, and again, you can kind of see where we fall in the rank of those large districts. And then finally, the levy per FTE. Again, the kind of the darker column over to the right there is the average. That's $4,039 per FTE. Paulding County, again, the darkest column over to the left at $2,774 per FTE. And I want to show this slide. We show this every year, but just again to highlight what it looks like to be sort of low wealth. If you go back, what you're looking at here is a local revenue per FTE. And so we're comparing ourselves, that local revenue per FTE, to comparable districts and then also the statewide average. So the gray column you see there is comparable districts. The darker blue is the statewide average. So for example, if you'll go look over to the left a little bit, you'll see FY09. In 2009, the variance between Paulding County and our comparable districts was $72 per FTE. Against the state, it was $1,117. And then if you go all the way over to the right, you'll see the most current information we have as of FY 2019. That variance to comparables has increased to $947 per FTE. Against the state, we're at $1,482. So what you're seeing there is just the impact, the residual impact of the Great Recession. Also wanted to mention the red line there. That is our millage rate. And so you'll see that we've only had a couple of decreases during this time frame on the millage rate, a slight decrease back in FY15, and then what you don't see on the chart here is FY20, where we had another slight decrease. So what you're really seeing there is not a change in millage rate that's causing that. It's the actual digest itself, primarily driven by the Great Recession and then the remnant of the Great Recession, which again ultimately results in us being around $486 lower per pupil than our comparable districts. This last slide here is just a summary that we put together that really kind of highlights what makes Paulding County School District unique, what makes us low wealth. It's really broken down into two sections. It's demographic and economic factors, and of course enrollment factors. But this is really here just more for a reference than anything, but wanted to get that out again in any way possible in front of the public, just to kind of educate everyone on what makes Paulding unique. And we really are unique among school districts in Georgia. And with that, we just come back to our timeline. Of course, our second hearing will be this evening. Our third public hearing will occur on July 28th at 8 a.m. With that, unless there's any questions, I'm through, Dr. Otat.
Thank you, Mr. Barnett. Any questions?
All right. If there's no public comments, we'll go ahead and give the details for the remaining public hearings. As Mr. Barnett said, we will have one tonight at 6 p.m. All concerned citizens are invited to the remaining hearings to be held here at the district office, which is 3236 Atlanta Highway, Dallas, Georgia 30132. And Dr. Otat, do you have anything further?
Just appreciate Mr. Barnett for his information. And I would encourage any community members watching this to go to our finance page and really take a look at that document about what makes Paulding County unique. It truly spells out the circumstances that we've been in for decades here in Paulding County. And it's just very informational, it's very easy to read, it's very thoughtful in how it's shared. So I'd encourage our community to go to that so they have a better understanding of the challenges that we face here in the Paulding County School District.
All right, any board members? All right, with that being said, we look forward to seeing everyone again tonight at 6 p.m. and we will adjourn our first public hearing.